Yeah, yeah.
Alright, hello and welcome. This is just a little behind the scenes and slight art tutorial for anyone who hasn't done resin before, and kind of just to show you what my business process is throughout the week. This is actually a wholesale order that you get to see from start to finish, so these are old projects that I finished off the last order that didn't need to go out. So I'm pulling them out of their molds and I'm setting them out just so I can kind of make sure everything looks okay, making sure there's nothing loose, getting them set for the next day to be prepped. I do need more than what was inside that though, so I'm going to go over to my bins and I'm going to see what supplies I need to use. We've got anything from sand to ink, there's pine cones, paint juice, anything you could need, it's here. We have pigment powders, we've got glow powders, we use it all for our art. The main stuff that we use is this right here, which is Stuart Simple's Lit. Grab my flashlight. It is made with the world's glowiest glow in the dark. It lasts 12 hours every night. We use it with just about everything that we make. It's kind of the crux of our business, Hardlight Crafters. It's in the name, and it all comes from that right there. I also use a lot of that eye candy pigment. So I'll be choosing what I need from that, and then we'll jump to the next station. So now I'm pouring in my resin. I didn't use specific ones because each one is different. This particular resin is a 1-to-1 ratio, so I poured half to half, 1-to-1 rather. I'm going to mix these together now. You can kind of see it's a little hard, but there are streaks inside of the resin. I am going to mix until those streaks are gone and it's crystal clear. It just looks like water. If you take a look on the inside now, I've finished mixing and it's degassing, so it's crystal clear except for those bubbles on top. We're going to let that sit for a few minutes and then we'll come back with our heat gun. So now I'll take my heat gun here. I'm just going to make sure I give it a good quick hit. Make sure your heat gun is hot. You don't want to hit it for too long or you'll flash cure it. If it does hit that particularly high temperature, it'll cure the top or cure the entire thing. I'm also looking for leftover resin. If I have anything spilled over or anything that didn't quite fit, resin can be pretty expensive, so it's best just to cut it up or break it into pieces, and then I throw it inside of the projects. I also like to throw in different big items, either to give it different visual effects or just to fill in space so I don't have to use as much resin on the projects themselves. So now we got our setup. I'm going to throw in some of this mermaid dust. This is a good pigment powder that gives a lot of different shifting colors, kind of a greenish blue. This is a new product from Stuart Simple called Untitled. It changes in sunlight and when it's in artificial light. And of course Stuart Simple's Lit, which we add to all of our projects. You'll notice these are all in a big clump. So I'm going to go grab my mixing instrument. I'm just going to use one of our plastic spoons that we recycle and reuse over and over. So I'll grab this now and give it a good hard mix. So now that everything is mixed, we're going to let it degas for a few minutes. I want to make sure everything glows the way that I want it to as well. Looks perfect. We're going to be using these molds here. You can see the bubbles on top. I'm going to hit those with my heat gun real quick to get rid of the bubbles. As you can see, the white on top are those bubbles and they're disappearing and it's getting more mirror-like. That's perfect. We let it degas for the exact right amount of time. Now that we're pouring into the molds, I'm going to fill in first the lion's head that was in the far front center. It already had leftover resin in it, so I wanted to make sure that one didn't go to waste. So now I'll pour into the others and make sure they're full as far as they can go. I'm pouring as much as I can out of there. If I notice that something isn't completely full, or if one of the edges, like on that bear there, is a little bit low, I will take items and then I'll put them inside of there. So those are a few of those little items. I'll throw them into the bear's booty. He's a little off screen right now, but the items are going to sink down inside. I push them in with that spoon and then it'll lift up the levels again. So now that bear should cure at the proper height. If you look in the background, you can see that there are empty molds. I needed 11 for this, and the amount that I poured out wasn't enough, so I'll have to come back and I'll have to make more for this set, or I'll just have to count those other red ones I had to make sure it was enough. I let that wait because I was giving it a heat gun, so that's why that took a little bit. This is the next morning, so I'm pulling these out. They have a 24-hour cure. So it's not necessarily the next morning, but it's 24 hours or roughly 20 hours from when I poured them. I'm pulling them each out now, making sure each one looks good. Just wanted to show them off to the camera as well. I'm kind of feeling the bottom. I'm making sure their glow didn't settle any weird ways, so I'm just making sure they look correct. This is the next day. I had to leave and go to a live stream, so I came back again and had to get them all pulled out of their molds. I'm now in a little bit of a rush because I realized that I needed to get this wholesale order out and that I was on my day of sending. So I got these all pulled. I was checking the bottoms, make sure they're not sharp. A big part of what we do is selling to children, so resin can sometimes come out with really sharp edges, and we just want to make sure that if they're being sold to children, especially because they're sold as nightlights most of the time, we don't want kiddos to accidentally touch them or put them near their face and get cut. So I'm pulling these out, seeing if all the levels were okay. Some are a little harder to get out like these. I've seen people recommend using soap and water to get them out. You can. I actually find that it's a little bit easier to get them out if you don't pull them after the 24 hours. The longer they seem to sit in mold, the longer it seems to take for them to get out of molds, like almost as if they're curing to the silicone. So it seems like the quicker you can get them out, the better. Just make sure they're properly cured before you do that. So yeah, we're moving on now. I've actually finished all my dremeling. I lost my footage of that, but I Dremel in the background. I basically, on the bottom of all these, or anywhere where the resin cured at its like air point is very sharp, I'm getting them all shaved down. I'm going to take my compressed air and I'm going to blow off all my projects. This is just one step to cleaning them. Again, these are going to children, so if there's any like air marks, air bubbles, anything like that, it's a good chance that resin went into it, the resin dust. I'm blowing that all off. You can't see, but I'm wearing a mask now, right, as well. Especially during the dremeling, the dust that comes off of resin can be quite toxic, so it's really important to wear a good high-grade mask when you're doing this, and especially when you're pouring resin, it's a good idea to wear a mask and wear gloves. You'll notice I'm really bad about those habits. I've been doing it for so long that I'm just pretty confident about what I'm doing, but that is never a good reason to not wear your gloves and wear your mask, so do as I say, not as I do. I'm also blowing off my Dremel. It's a good idea just so it doesn't get all gunked up. The resin dust can really get in there, so I usually give it a blow off. That can of compressed air was dying, so that's why that got a little piddly. So we're going to move on. We're going to the art sink now. We're going to get everything all cleaned off. They have been compressed aired, but I want to make sure just one more time that they're completely clean. I'm going to get some really hot water going. I'm going to use a different head just to make sure it's actually blasting into those little pockets that are inside of them. I'm going to go with my hand as well just to make sure everything looks fine. Shake it out because there's probably resin dust still inside of there too from when we were outside getting everything done. So then I'll take these again. I'll kind of wipe them off by hand as well. Again, the cleaning process, especially with these going to children, is just a really important step. We want to make sure that everything is clean, everything is safe for a kiddo to have, and never want to make parents or anything wonder if they're safe. And as long as we keep our products that way, there should never ever be a wonder of that. So I'm getting these washed off, making sure there's no sharp bottoms. The water's very hot, so I keep pulling my hands away like that. Just want to make sure everything is completely done. That is another reason not to pull things too early. The hot water will make them gummy again, so you want to make sure they're still fully cured before you pull them quote-unquote early. Again, you'll notice most of the time that after about 12 hours, they've gotten pretty hard. So then we'll move on to our last step. I just need to put these onto a towel. They've all been shaved down. I'm going to get them all folded up, and I'm going to pat them off while they get dried, making sure they're in a good position, so things like the kitsune's wings and stuff like that will all get pushed down. All of these will then be put into our wholesale bin, and they'll be ready to be shipped off to whatever client ordered them that week. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I just thought it would be kind of an interesting little insight into what we do here at Hardlight Crafters. If you're ever interested in supporting us, feel free to check out hardlightcrafters.com. This is the physical art we make. We do also make digital art, so if you're interested in our YouTube page or watching our live streams, we do live stream 5 days a week. And we wouldn't be able to do this without the support of our subscribers and our patrons. So thank you to everyone who's already supported us. You're the inspiration behind doing all of this art, and we look forward to making even more for you guys. Have a great day.